Good morning and welcome to the trade setup right here on BloombergQuint Live. I'm Neeraj Shah. A quick update on the key news. So the 10-year and the 30-year yields rose to the highest level since 2019 in the US, and that was a noteworthy point. The United Nations has voted to remove Russia from the Human Rights Council. India abstained from that vote, and oil has settled lower on doubts about Russia oil sanctions effectiveness as well as the China lockdown. So all of these were amongst the key macro variables that we thought were important to bring to your notice. Now, did the markets react too much to these? No, not as much. I mean, the yields went up, but the US markets, while they were soft for better part of the trading day yesterday, they did go up a little bit in the last half and therefore ended marginally in the green, if you will. The futures are marginally in the green, so that's a good thing. The only thing is the hawkish commentary from the Fed may not be over for now. Now, there's this chart on the terminal which shows how the surprise, there's a US Citigroup US inflation surprise index. That is the white line. As you can see in this chart, that the white line is comfortably above what the level of the yields is, or what is apparently a mean level. So from what I read, that typically when this line is below the 20 level, that's when it is in the Fed's comfort zone. Otherwise, it is way out of the comfort of the Fed, and that may prompt the Fed to keep on staying hawkish. So that's the key point that you got to keep at the back of your mind. But the markets are okay, the futures are okay, and which is why Asia is a bit mixed. The SGX Nifty should come up on your screen next, and it is indicating about a 17-point uptick, but it could flow either direction during the course of the day. Now, my viewpoint is that while the Nifty is down around 3% from the recent highs, and people might feel that there has been a bit of a correction, the broader markets have remained pretty steady. The market breadth has largely been in favor of the advances over the declines, just that in yesterday's trade, it was even Stevens. But because there is an MPC meet today, I think people would likely sit on the sidelines, especially in BFSI. And per se, I don't think the risk reward is still in favor of longs in leverage longs in banks. By longs, I mean leverage longs. Sure, you could buy out an HDFC Bank, HDFC, ICICI Bank, depending on where you find fundamental value, or a Kotak Bank, or whatever. I mean, I'm not recommending one way or the other. All I'm saying is that the leverage longs may not be the most advisable part. Keep in mind, if you bought into an HDFC or an HDFC Bank after the merger was announced, right, and the stocks went up maybe 15, 16% on the day, but even if you bought it just 11% higher and not 15% higher, you're still out of the money because the stocks have corrected post that. Just tells you the skittish market behavior. A 3% drop in the Nifty has brought about a slightly larger drop onto some of these individual names. I think the one key space that everybody seems to be unanimously bullish on is defense. Now, typically when everybody's on the same side of the road, the asset class doesn't perform, but somehow defense seems to be doing okay. I mean, yesterday, the more details about that list were out. Stocks did really well in trade yesterday. I'm so glad we spoke about defense yesterday, as well as a pack on trade setup. Yesterday, you had everything from a BEL to a HAL to everything else doing really well. Maybe, just maybe, that's one pocket that might continue to do okay. But there were large sell numbers from the FIs yesterday, 5,009 crores. This would include the 2,200 crores of or Invesco selling that 2,200 crores. So that gets included or clubbed in this as well. I don't quite know what's the nature of the buying that happened, and therefore was there some offset, and therefore whether out of this 5,009 crores, was it 3,000 crores or 4,000 crores, which was net FI selling irrespective of Z, but it was still a large number nevertheless, and that's the key point. Those 5 or 6 days of a honeymoon period from the FI side are over. They're back to selling ways in India at least. What about stocks to monitor in the session today? Like I said, I think defense stays top of the line. The Defense Ministry has issued a list of 101 weapons and platforms to be procured locally. And you will see various analysis depending on the nature of the instrument. What I've read, and which is what I showed yesterday as well on Trade Setup, you can see that the names of the stocks as well, which most brokerages believe could actually do well. So the HALs, BELs, Bharat Forges, etc., all get included in this list of if it's procured locally. So if it's vehicles, then Mahindra and Mahindra and Tata Motors and Ashok Leyland, for example, some of the auto ancillaries, of course, pure defense equipment of the kinds that HAL and BEL do, then those two come into the fray. Bharat Forge comes into the fray, and therefore all of those stocks, depending on how the orders shape up, could do well. But because the government is walking the talk, I think this time around the seriousness around a defense stock rally seems to be a lot more real. Mahindra & Mahindra has news of its own. The subsidiary SsangYong Motor has terminated the pact with Edison over non-payment of bid money. Edison is bid for, and that pact has been terminated. I don't quite know if M&M reacts to this in a major fashion or no. Let's wait and watch. Yesterday, for example, I thought that, or a lot of people had thought that IDFC, for example, in the back of the news, would do reasonably okay. The stock really tanked. So, you know, no idea how to predict this. Very easy to predict Indiabulls Realty and what it could do today. They've launched a QIP with a floor price of 106. They plan to raise about 1,500 crores via the share sale. The problem with Indiabulls Real Estate is that there's a lot of promise of value, and when the merger does happen with Embassy, maybe there would be factual value. I've heard some very smart people talk about this value. Yeah, they're people who look at the books, look at the valuations, and look at the intrinsic value before commenting. So a bunch of very smart people have invested in Indiabulls Real Estate. This QIP came, to my mind, and the size was a bit of a surprise, really. Markets generally don't like too much of equity dilution. This will start off lower. Let's see if it picks up steam from there or no. The other one which has been on a bit of a roll is NTPC, and now there's more news. So Maharashtra cabinet has approved the proposal to build a 2,500 megawatt solar park in the state, and this will be developed jointly by the Maharashtra State Power Generation Company and NTPC. Separately, the NTPC has also incorporated a unit, BTPC Green Energy. Now remember, if a Tata Power or something else get valuations for their renewables arms, then NTPC, having such a large exposure to renewables, could also play the same game. And that's where I think the traction in NTPC the last few days. If you look at NTPC stock price the last few days, I think it's been on a bit of a roll. All power stocks are, by the way. I'm not saying NTPC individually, but this is an elephant. It usually doesn't move, and it's had a really good run the last few days. So do watch out for that. Some pre-quarter updates. So Chola, the 4Q disbursements for Chola were up about 58%. Collection efficiency was 138%. A fairly strong disbursements, really. Auto finance disbursements were up about 43% YOY for this one. Collection efficiency was 138%, as I said. Q4 FY21 was 120%. And for Chola, maybe the issue has been that the NPAs haven't been the strongest. I mean, they've been fairly weak. But if indeed the collection efficiency is so high, then you could probably argue that the NPA levels will improve for Chola as time goes by. So do watch out for this one in the session today. Could actually do well. So let's wait and watch. Sobha was pretty strong, really. Their best ever FY22 pre-sales, quarter four pre-sales, 1109 crores. Was up about only 6% QOQ, but still on that very strong third quarter. That's about a 6% QOQ uptick, which is actually great. Pre-sales at 3870 crores, I believe, versus 3137 crores in FY21. I'm talking about FY22 pre-sales. So they were up about 23%. So good showing really by Sobha. I think if you, and actually not such great showing for Oberoi. I don't have those numbers, but because the Thane launch hasn't happened, etc. Somehow Oberoi numbers were slightly tepid. So Sobha was better than Oberoi, and I think Macrotech was much better than Sobha as well. So that's how the cookies crumbled in quarter four. What can happen in quarter one is anybody's guess. Prestige, have they come out with the numbers? I'm not quite sure, but I think I remember having spoken about it. But their expectation is that Prestige 2 could have fairly strong quarter four numbers as well. So that's how the pecking order seems to be. Let's wait and watch. So those were a couple of quarterly updates. I thought people should keep an eye out for Big Block, Poonawalla Finance, and Sri Renuka. Some fairly strong price volume action there on those names. So do watch out for those. By the way, speaking of macro tech, Morgan Stanley came out with an release post the macro tech Q4 sales. Equal weight, they are saying a target price of 1298. They are saying that the company achieved its FY22 pre-sales and deleveraging targets, and the guidance for FY23 and delivery on new project acquisition guidance are the key potential catalyst for the ensuing months. So that is something that people should keep an eye out for. And people should watch out for Sterling Wilson Solar. I thought the numbers were very weak, so that's something you should watch out for. And Ruchi Soya, the FPO listing today, everybody will be keeping a keen eye out for that one as well. Last but not the least, before we wrap up, what to watch out for amidst all this talk around what India should do and shouldn't do from the US, which has been kind of taking a hard stance. I think the next meeting would be important. The foreign and defense ministers of US and India will meet in Washington on Monday and Tuesday for the first 2+2 dialogue since Joe Biden took office. I think outcomes from this meeting would be very, very crucial and will be keenly watched out for. For today, I think everybody watching out for the MPC decision. We'll of course be there live with the MPC decision with a post verdict panel discussion at 2 p.m. as well, and lots more on that. So you may catch all of that action on BloombergQuint. Thanks so much for tuning in. Stay safe.